Angela Ryan, let me start with you. Those close to the president say this was nothing but an attempt at opposition research, and it didn't even go anywhere. It was a giant waste of time. I suspect you disagree.
I disagree just a little bit. But I think the bigger flag for me in this particular piece is the ways in which they were attempting to close out a Hillary Clinton investigation. But James Comey stepped forward saying that there were these damaging emails. Those emails ended up being Anthony Weiner's. They're ramping up this Russia investigation for Donald Trump 100 days before the election, and there was no mention of it. So we heard this term compromise, right? For several months after the election, that there was somebody in the camp. Who would have known that it could have involved the FBI, that it could have involved the Department of Justice? So when we talk about compromising American democracy, some of our key institutions were a part of that. They withheld substantial information, critical information to the American people, even if the investigation wasn't solved. It still isn't, right? There are some key facts that should have been presented. They were afraid of Donald Trump bullying them. That is essentially what this piece says. So we allowed someone who bullied throughout the election and before the campaign even started to bully the Department of Justice and the FBI. That is why they withheld this information.
Look, I do agree with Angela in that this entire investigation has been botched since day one,
That's
right?
not what I said.
Yeah, sure you did. You said, sure you did.
No,
Angela,
what I said.
They undermined Hillary. And
oh, you agree that they undermined Hillary?
You said, I said, I agree that the FBI's botched it since day one. I
didn't say that they botched the investigation. What I said is they botched the election. And I'm saying that the reason
that's kind of
no. The reason that they came out is to make sure that that hands were clean about Hillary Clinton, but then they withheld for 100 days from the American people that this investigation was ongoing. They forgot to tell us that there were 4 people critical to the president, right in his inner circle, being investigated.
Well, how's that not botched, though?
But because they didn't botch this investigation, they botched the election for us. They compromised
our democracy. Well, that's going a little too far. I think where you are on solid ground is the fact that they were intimidated by Trump. They were worried that if any information out, it was Boos's case, that the election was rigged.
Nobody at that time thought Trump was going to be the president.
But Amanda, if the concept that it was rigged against them is, at this point, this is semantics, because I'm saying that they botched a key component of the election. They created another pathway for Russia to interfere.
Well, I'm not sure the FBI should come out and let everyone know every time an investigation is opened. I do agree with James Comey, and we said we let the public know once the investigation was closed and what our thoughts on it were. To go to the public, any candidate with agents are looking into him, that would mess up elections all over the place.
I think that the point was the comparison between Hillary Clinton's non-emails, because they were Anthony Weiner's, right, which is where I started.
Well, there's two. The consequential one that James Comey, the press conference in July of 2016, where he said the investigation is closed and she was guilty of extreme carelessness. And then you're talking about his announcement in
2 weeks before the election.
Yeah, so there's two different.
No, but I'm not. That wasn't the point I was raising. The point that I was raising is there was an open investigation against Trump and his inner circle 100 days before the election. That is when it was initiated. 2 weeks before the election, they're talking about something with Hillary that was not Hillary.
David,
that's my issue.
I want to, Angela, do you think this is a winning strategy for Democrats to focus on these hearings as opposed to other issues? The Rust Belt and jobs and health care. It doesn't seem clear to me that even if it's important to investigate this, that when it comes to the midterms or 2020, this is really going to bear Democrats any fruit.
You know, Jake, what's so challenging is I don't think that I've personally even shaken the trauma associated with the 2016 election. So there's something about gaslighting that just makes you want to get to the bottom of the thing.
I can tell you more about that.
And she has a book about gaslighting.
Yeah, shameless plug, and I'm glad you took that opportunity. It's a good one. I think that my reality is, from the standpoint of garnering more votes and support for an agenda, no, it does absolutely nothing. But I think it is inherent for what has to happen from a historical standpoint for protecting a democracy that still has it has a long way to go to be representative of all people in this country. They have to get to the bottom of it. I hope that Democrats will learn to walk and chew gum at the same time, because it's imperative. Not just for this one, but for 2020.
I want to ask you.
Well, it's also an issue because this is an administration that coined the term alternative facts.
Right.
This is an administration that regularly calls real news fake news. Donald Trump Jr. has been a part of that, so that also goes directly to credibility.
Angela, take a listen to Sarah Sanders, the press secretary at the White House, asked about this Libya model from John Bolton. This is earlier today.
I haven't seen that as part of any discussions, so I'm not aware that that's a model that we're using.
Even though that's not administration policy currently, the Libya model.
Look, again, this is the President Trump model. He's going to run this the way he sees fit.
Trying to walk it back, but is that enough? Does the Trump administration need to do more to make it clear, look, we weren't talking about we want to see your country look like Libya when this is all over?
I think that's a tough sell. David, it's interesting because you said it's, they're being overly sensitive. I don't know a human being on this planet that wouldn't be being compared to what's happened in Libya. It is disruptive. It was horrible.
Well, I think they're talking about denuclearization, right? They gave up their arms, is what they're.
But I think the reality of it is we know that this is a soundbite culture, not just here in the United States, globally. That's what they hear, and the reality of it is you're going to get defensive when you know that people were brutally killed.
But Angela, take a listen to President Trump, who has been boastful about how he has managed the North Korean threat as opposed to Obama, Bush, Clinton, et cetera.
I started a process, and when I did, everybody thought I was doing it absolutely wrong. But in the meantime, for 25 years, people have been dealing and nothing happened. And a lot's happening right now. I can tell you that, Jeff. A lot is happening. And I think it's going to be very positive.
Angela?
So a couple of things. I remember during the campaign when he was asked about leaders, world leaders he admired and respected, Kim Jong-un was one of them. This is a problem. This is somebody that he admired for potential bullying behavior. He identified with this person. It's also interesting to note that he hasn't taken him at his word. He's constantly moved the ball. It's very difficult to
Who's moved the ball, Trump or
Kim Jong-un?
Kim
Like
Jong-un?
okay. with other administrations.
Sure,
and so what I'm saying is, why would you think that it would be different? He's so caught up in trying to differentiate himself from President Obama that he doesn't believe that an apple is an apple, that a fact is a fact.
You think he was specifically thinking about anybody in particular?
I think he might have. I think that now the CNN commercial should just sub in that moment.
An apple's an apple.
An apple is an apple.
Yeah.
And I think what's frustrating to me is that it takes folks till they leave to acknowledge the truth. And I think that real protectors of the democracy don't wait until they're free of their position or ties to the administration to tell the truth. If that was the truth then, or if that's the truth now, it was the truth then, and you should have spoke up.
Yeah, so
it would be amazing for the Senate Judiciary Committee to now say, we have enough to have you come back and testify, testify before this committee. That would be great to see.
But do you think that because he didn't call out President Trump when he was in office, and because he didn't call out President Trump by name, that this is not as powerful?
Of course it's not as powerful. The reality of it is it's another example of a presidential appointee lacking real courage. And I'm saying this is not something that is a partisan witch hunt. There's a difference between there being a very complex, multi-layered investigation. I'm saying, to Amanda's point, if there's some things we need to know, and that's for the good of the whole. That's not about
Jake, I remember him sitting on your